Let me be very clear about this one. The story that you tell yourself over and 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 over again is not complete. The story that you've been telling yourself year after year after year after year. The story that you sit down and tell somebody that takes you 2 hours to tell, it doesn't matter how long you tell the story, it's still not complete. It's not complete. So the story that we tell ourselves, though, it becomes very compelling. It becomes very compelling when you can name it and claim it as your own story. And because you can name it and claim it as your own story, you feel justified by telling it. You feel that I have a story, I can name it, I can claim it, I can tell it over and over and over again, and in our minds we have accepted then that that means that we matter. That I matter, and that what I say and what I do is justified. However, the story ain't complete. The story ain't complete. We're justified, justifying. We want to be able to justify our actions, and not just our actions, our feelings. When people come and they want to have a session with me, oftentimes at the end I'll say, "Are you feeling complete?" And sometimes they say, "Well, I got one more thing." And it starts something like this. "Well, do you think that I should leave, or do you think I should stay?" Something like that. In my mind, I'm thinking justifying your actions and your feelings, and I give it right back to them, and I say, your story ain't complete. Your story ain't complete. But we do. We want to justify our actions, we want to justify our feelings, but let me tell you, in that moment, the moment that you are justifying, seeking to justify your actions, seeking to justify your feelings, in that moment, your desire to change is when you start to diminish it. In those moments, your desire to change is when you start to ignore it because you'd rather justify it than to be present with it. The reading said and offered us an opportunity to begin to live in a world of paradox, where this and that exists, where our sadness also, in our sadness, we can also begin to invite peace. In those times in our lives where we are confused, we can also begin to invite in clarity. In those times in our lives where we find ourselves in pain, we can also begin to invite moments of joy and bliss. But you got to be able to hold them both at the same time. You got to be willing to not justify. You've got to be willing to begin to embrace, embody, and accept your wholeness and your perfection. Because your wholeness and your perfection is enough. It's more than enough to move you forward, to cause you to take one more step when you don't want to change everything. So that the past becomes so unrecognizable that you're not willing to go back to it. That everything in your life is just changed in such a way that you are filled with the beauty and the grace of God, that anything that might be possible that was from the past, it's no longer a viable option to you. Change everything. And so I'm here to remind us today to change everything, to decide to actively and consciously engage in creation, and to actively and consciously decide to disengage in justification, where we realize daily that the moral of the story always is that there's more to the story. To let what is be and what's possible to become. Where we are no longer living a life seeking to change our lives, but we are living a life that's changed. Living a life that's changed, where we undoubtedly and unassuredly have our starting place be in wholeness and perfection. Where we invite in the complete opposite of whatever is before us. Where we begin to hold them both at the same time, to cultivate and to nurture. See, you have to do this so that it becomes the only possibility, that what was is no longer a possibility. Where we change everything. That's the invitation. Change everything. Change everything. Begin to become aware of who you are. Begin to embrace it and embody it in all that you do. Why all? Because we are changing everything. Everything. I think I'm complete. You have a lot to be with. Practitioners, please join me as we anchor this idea where we realize in this moment that we are one with the eternal presence of God. And in our awareness of this power and this presence, our full recognition of it, I know now in this moment, we realize our oneness with it. We realize now in this moment that we are whole, perfect, and complete. That we have always been whole, and all that we are is perfection itself in its great and grandest expression. That's who and what we are. I speak my word now for each one of us here, claiming, knowing, declaring, and decreeing now in this moment that we become more aware of who we are, more aware of the power and ability at hand for us to create something new, for us to begin to change our life, not some parts of our life, but everything about our life. I speak my word knowing that this great power and this presence, this great universe, that it supports us in moving forward and going forth and changing our lives, in changing everything, in holding sadness and joy at the same time, in knowing that something greater within us is more than enough to move us forward through the sadness into a new place and a new space where the old is no longer recognizable. I speak my word this day, knowing that this great power and this presence, that it's more than enough to change whatever situation, whatever circumstance we find ourselves in today. I speak my word knowing that the possibilities are infinite, and that we stand in the infinite possibilities of all that awaits, all the goodness that there is, all the God that there is, where we realize that our good is God and that our God is good. Oh, we stand in this great truth today. Let it be the great realization through you this day. Let it unfold in you. Be willing to allow the idea of God and good, the idea of creation to take over, to live through you, to express as you in this moment. And I know for each one of us, actions, that we surrender and let go of the doubt, of the fear, of the worry, and certainly of the story. We let it go, become available for something new to happen in us, through us, and as us, changing our lives right here and right now. And oh, I give thanks for it. I'm filled with joy and excitement about the possibilities. I'm filled now with joy and excitement about what tomorrow might bring me. I'm excited and thrilled about what the next second offers me in this great and wonderful life. I am grateful that it is with ease and grace then that I take the words that have been spoken today. I gather them and I place them into the law of mind. That is that place in that space within us that knows, accepts the word as the living spirit of God right here and right now, that realizes and recognizes that there's a power acting on these words now. I accept it wholly and fully for each one of us here, where I stand in acceptance of it, knowing that the demonstration is already made. So it's from that place and that space then that I move to an even greater expectancy of God and only God, of good and the all good. So together, as we come together to create peace, we just simply let these words go, we let them be, and we anchor by saying, and so it is.